Good morning, Grand Rising. Welcome to Wake Up with me, Sonia Poulton, journalist, broadcaster, troublemaker, all round, whatever you want to call me. How are you? Welcome to today's Wake Up. It's Monday, the 19th of January. It's exactly AM GMT. Thank you for being here. I see you're already busy in the chat, which is always wonderful. Welcome to the show that knows when a clown moves into a palace, he doesn't become a king. The palace becomes a circus. Apparently that's a Turkish proverb. I love it. How are you? I hope you're well. Borda, Louise, wonderful to see you all of our wonderful, amazing people from all around the world. I absolutely love it. What is on today's Wake Up? Well, if everything links up correctly, we should be joined by CALLUM Smiles. He's in Davos for the WEF Week, World Economic Forum, and he will be reporting live from there. So hopefully everything should go to plan. But you can never tell, right? We'll also be joined by our favourite around here, journalist Warren Thornton. He'll be giving us a geopolitical roundup, including Gaza, Board of Peace, Trump and Greenland, Carney and China, Putin, and more. And how are you feeling right now? We're told it's Blue Monday, but we all know, well, we don't all know, some of us do, that was actually a marketing slogan that was drummed up by a travel company. And the idea was to get people to book holidays in the dead of winter in the Northern Hemisphere. So there you go. So Zoe from Synchronised Souls podcast, she'll be joining us and talking about the importance of acknowledging the needs of your body according to the seasons and not a fake new year. Plus news, parliamentary updates, government internet bans, NHS trans and first cousin marriages. Erica Kirk's Turning Point USA has started issuing legal letters. That's interesting. And I'll be looking at who is Sascha Riley. Who is Sascha Riley? You may have heard of that name. Well, if not, I'll be filling you in later. And Grenfell, no justice, no peace. Plus your shout, viewer emails on the two Lucies, Lucy Letby and Lucy Connolly. And we'll end on, you've come this far, so be proud. Yes, indeed. And Tanya points out in the comments, hey, Sonia, I'm from Australia, not Serbia. So sorry, I rerouted you momentarily. She's such a star, and that's a wonderful invite to me and my daughter to Australia, and I appreciate it very, very much. You're amazing, amazing. You've always been fantastically supportive, and I do appreciate you. And Kevin also says in the comments, I saw a heron. I saw a heron sitting on my fence yesterday. Is that a good or bad sign? Well, apparently, herons symbolize patience, stillness, and quiet contemplation, but they also signify transformation, adaptability, and connection between worlds. Woo woo! We're getting off to a good start here. How are you all? How are you all? Yes, I can't work out who Riley is, said Robert. Well, we're going to delve in. We're going to see if we can make any sense of it together, right? And we were joined by John Curtin from Camp Beagle last week. Always wonderful to have John with us. He's such an amazing activist, and he's been out there fighting the good fight for a very long period of time. And he's outside MBR Acres, which is an industrial breeding ground for beagles to be bred and then sold for experimentation. It's filthy, disgusting stuff. You have to be a psychopath to work at a place like that, and there are plenty of them. Well, John joined us because MPs were voting to essentially restrict protests outside animal testing labs and research centres under the guise of life sciences infrastructure, and they did it. They did it. The House of Commons saw 301 MPs vote in favour of an update to the Public Order Act 2023 with a majority of 191. And the Public Order Act gave police greater powers to prevent what they considered to be disruptive protests. And one of these was the creation of a new offence of interfering with key national infrastructure. I do not consider the testing and abuse and breeding of animals to be key national infrastructure. It's absolutely abhorrent. And Labour make me sick. John Curtin was absolutely right. Labour, they go on, don't they? We're the party of animal lovers. We're going to ensure that there is much more protection for animals moving forward. Bollocks. Absolutely sick, absolutely sick. And so what will now happen is, despite from resistance from animal welfare campaigners, the new measures has now been approved by Parliament. And the fact is that these laws are being changed because the activists are making an impact. That is the reality. And it's awful. And there's places all over England and the UK that are abusing animals. One of them is Alderley Park in Cheshire. It houses the Agenda Life Science campus where in vivo surgery is carried out. Horrible, horrible stuff. These people are disgusting. It says a lot about their mindset. It really does. Christine points out Fauci and the patch killing dog. Yes, horrible, horrible people, psychopaths testing on animals. We hate it. And also, last week in Parliament, the terminally ill adults end of life bill, but we around here, of course, call it assisted suicide. They are pushing for that. The bill is at the committee stage and it was in the House of Lords again on Friday. And the current parliamentary session is expected to end in spring 2026. If the bill does not complete all stages by then, it will fail. However, they have now applied for an extension. Of course they have. And but because this is a private member's bill and not a government manifesto, the House of Lords is not constitutionally bound to pass it. So if peers block or delay the bill until the session ends, supporters have suggested using the Parliament Act to force it through in the next session, though this would be unprecedented for this type of legislation. Well, it is unprecedented in the UK to have an assisted suicide bill. So do not be surprised if they decide to bring forth an unprecedented piece of legislation. That would be just up their streets. And I see Grenfell, they are bringing down the banners this week. And absolute awful. 14th November 2017, high-rise fire broke out in the 24-storey Grenfell Tower block of flats in West London, England. Burned for 60 hours, 70 people died at the scene, 2 people died later in hospital with more than 70 injured and 223 escaping. And the Grenfell inquiry has been ongoing. And next year, 2017, will be a decade since it happened. Can't believe that. And not one single person has been charged. There have been payoffs. There have been fraud. Some people who weren't even there applied for money. And it is absolutely outrageous. And obviously, we know who is largely culpable. And part of that is down to the management company to do with Kensington and Chelsea management. I very infamously was 2 days after the fire was at Kensington Chelsea Town Hall, and people were there and they wanted to essentially take out the management. Have a little look at this.
Calm down! This is not the way! This is not the way! You need to calm down! This is not the way! No, this is not the way!
B's saying November. Did I say November? It was June. Did I, on 14th of June 2017, did I say 14th of November? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes I say MRB acres when I really mean MBR acres. Sometimes I say Big Brother when I really mean Big Breakfast. And sometimes I say November when I mean June. These things happen. But yes, it was the 14th of June 2017. And so, yeah, awful, awful stuff. And of course, nobody has been held to account. No, Cavan, it was very much a Tory council, actually, a Tory council at Kensington and Chelsea. They knew the cladding was dangerous and they did nothing, says We Fat Shug. And that is the truth, Marcuson. Paid out and NDA signed. That is the reality. Yeah, Randy, I have brain farts. Absolutely. I cannot get everything right and I don't profess to. But I have it. I do in the comments on our videos. I will do corrections there because I like to get it right. Now, quickly, before I bring in our wonderful Warren, I want to talk about what is happening to our NHS. An employment tribunal ruled that County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust committed unlawful harassment and indirect sex discrimination against a group of female nurses. 8 nurses at Darlington Memorial Hospital have proven essentially their case, and more power to their elbow. They challenged the trust policy which allowed trans-identified males to use single-sex facilities aligned which were so-called aligned with their self-identified gender. Well, we all know that these are lawsuits that have been going on now for a long period of time. It's absolutely outrageous. Of course, it's not okay for a male, whether he calls himself female or not, to be changing with other females. Not okay at all. And the tribunal judge found that requiring the nurses to share a changing room with a trans colleague who is a biological male identifying as a woman violated their dignity and created a hostile, humiliating and degrading environment. Of course it did. Of course it did. It's a monopoly for predators to allow men who claim to be women to be changing in with other women. Absolutely outrageous. The judgment followed a 2025 UK Supreme Court ruling on biological sex. Some claims against the nurses were dismissed, but by and large, it was a victory. Absolutely outrageous. Sometimes I say sometimes when I mean most of the time. Got you, Mr. Mensah. Got you. Yes, we should all question the amount of deaths in Grenfell. I don't believe for a second that those were the official figures. There were people in there who were not registered. Remember, Grenfell was oftentimes taken up with a lot of migrants coming in. So there were people in there that we will never, ever know about. Way more people. Men in dresses, says Sail Away. And also important to note that the NHS, this is our money, of course, the National Health Service, they're teaching midwives the benefits of cousin marriage, despite it actually increasing the risk of birth defects. There is new NHS guidance, which has been produced as part of NHS England's maternity transformation programme. The aim is to halve the number of stillbirths by the year 2030. And the document is used as a training manual for midwives, and it states that discouraging cousin marriage is inappropriate and would be alienating and ineffective. It says that concerns about the risks of congenital diseases are exaggerated and unwarranted. However, it admits that some risks to child health is associated with close relative marriage. The guidance says these should be balanced against the potential benefits from this marriage practice, which includes like economic benefits, emotional and social connections, social capital, and it's fairly common amongst the Pakistani community. And what they're trying to do is normalize an abnormal practice. That is not normal. It's not okay. People want to marry their cousins, and that is legal. They can do that, but they shouldn't be having babies. They absolutely shouldn't. And this guidance is absolutely ridiculous. It says that staff should not stigmatize predominantly South Asian or Muslim patients who have a baby with their cousin because the practice is perfectly normal in some cultures. When in Rome, it's not perfectly normal here, okay? Not perfectly normal here at all. And critics, of course, have accused the NHS of turning a blind eye to an indefensible cultural practice. And I do believe it is indefensible. And last year, the Daily Mail did a survey, and they discovered that the deaths of more than 2 children a week in England are linked to their parents being closely related. And an NHS spokesperson said the NHS absolutely recognises the genetic risk of these relationships, and where people consider entering into them, we offer referral to genetic services so individuals understand the risks and can make informed decisions. We don't need to be paying out for more services. It is clearly a problem when first cousins have babies together, when they procreate together. We've seen it. The information is all there. And look, some people might go, well, it's not your business, right? It's their business culturally. It's my business. I'm paying for the NHS, and these children are being born deformed and disabled. It's not okay. That's my business, whether you like it or not. Yeah, I think it's disgusting, actually. I think it's disgusting. And, you can say anything is a cultural practice, can't you? Right? It doesn't mean that we have to agree with it. And I do actually believe we need to start straightening out a little bit, because England is England, right? If you come here, you have to, to a degree, abide by what works for us. Never thought I'd ever find myself saying something like that. But that's how bad it's got when you have the NHS issuing official guidance about the pros and cons of first cousins having a baby together. That's the shite show we're in, kids. That's the problem. Right. Vendetta said, absolutely is our business. It is our money. Yes, indeed. 100%. The NHS is very woke, like all the public sector, says Stephen Hall. And that's part of the problem. Right. I'm going to bring in Warren Thornton, who isn't at all woke, and so much the better for it. Here he is, Warren Thornton. How are you, Warren?
I am absolutely fine, Sonia. Happy day to you and to all your watchers and listeners.
Lovely to have you with us. You are, of course, a journalist and a geopolitical analyst of the finest order. Warren, were you sick? You're welcome. Were you sick last week?
I was, yes. We had a real case of sort of deli belly on the island. I think it was in the actual water supply, so there was quite a lot of people who were very, very sick. But we're all recovered now and we're on the mend. So.
Well, I say that, of course, because I was reading your newsletter. So let's start with this man, shall we? And his speech. What do you want to tell us about Putin's speech, Warren?
Well, Putin has actually gone to the point of having meetings with the hierarchy in the Russian, should we say, corridors of power in the Kremlin. And they have now come out more hardline. And this was always going to happen, Sonia, because we had the ridiculous Kushner, which Vitkov sort of, do you want to do a minerals deal for a ceasefire? And then, of course, Russia would never see the money. So that was never going to work. Then we had the idiotic so-called plan by Europe, where they met with Vitkov and Kushner. And of course, that was then sent or was going to be presented to the Russians. The Russians dismissed that out of hand because, of course, it didn't deal with any of their three main problems as far as the Russians are concerned. So what we're still trying to do is get this ridiculous ceasefire that's never going to happen. And the Russians, with what Putin has turned around and said, okay, you want to mess us around, not a problem. We'll go back to the original 1991 state of NATO. So in other words, that means NATO have to roll back all the gains that they've made in encircling Russia. So Russia have taken an incredibly hard line here. And underneath this underlying thing is, okay, that what he's basically signaling here, Sonia, is Ukraine is gone, all of it, not just the 9 oblasts that I thought he would take. He's had so much nonsense and years of, shall we say, peace deals where the Russians have never been invited. And of course, they've just gone, right, we've had enough of your messing around. We're quite happy still to talk to you, but here's our terms now. If you want to carry this on, the terms will just get worse.
Feels like it's being dragged out so significantly since last January when Trump took office, and this is all getting settled now. And you've just said that the ceasefire is not going to happen. No,
it was never going to happen until you address the three main points that the Russians wanted in the SMO, which is denazification, demilitarization, and no NATO in Ukraine ever. They're still not listening. They're still trying to get a winning draw from a catastrophic loss, and the Russians aren't having it now.
We're going to be joined a little later by Callum Smiles, hopefully from Davos. And Trump is taking a whole load of people to Davos. And obviously, Zelensky is going to be there. I mean, what's his position now? He just feels such an ineffectual individual, Warren.
Well, his position, Sonia, is one of pure panic. Because, of course, what we've now got is Budanov moved into the corridors of power he was the head of the Ukrainian Secret Service. He now goes and sits in the presidential offices with Zelensky. You've got Zaluzhny, who's recalled himself back to Ukraine. He is the gentleman who was the ambassador to the United Kingdom. He's being lined up to take over from Zelensky in the summer of 2026, as we told you last time. And of course, that is well underway now because, and the trouble for the Russians is they've seen this hard line, if you like, whether you want to call them neo-Nazi or neo-nationalist, but they're getting even more hard line. And of course, Britain wants to carry on this war where Germany, Italy and France have gone, oh my God, we're going to lose. And Friedrich Merz, from being this real tough guy who's going to take on Russia and everything else, has suddenly turned into Joan Rivers and gone, can we talk? So it is quite staggering. Finally, I think light has dawned on Marblehead, Sonia, as they say. The penny has dropped.
So here's the thing: is in your newsletter you talk about how America are the days of the playground bully, which I thought was such an apt description. I mean, it is an apt description, isn't it? But you say that's coming to an end. Are you actually saying that America is losing power in this situation?
Yes, it absolutely is, because it's going around lashing out in all directions, including places like Venezuela. It's going to try and destroy all the BRICS countries. It started the riots in Nepal. Between them and Israel, they were responsible for the uprising in Iran. And how this works when they overthrow a government, Sonia, is what they do is they with Iran, what they did was the rial was very simply their currency in Iran was attacked. Loads and loads of people bought tons of their currency, and then they shorted it so it would cause an economic collapse. And then, of course, people go out on the streets, they protest, and then they put their NGOs and their agents in with those protests, and then they start getting very violent. And of course, that leads to the overthrow of governments. And of course, this system is now being seen by everybody for what it is. And Russia and China were very quick to step forward and go, do you want some help? And Iran, who don't have the best government. I'm not saying they're brutal. I'm saying they're very naive, and they don't protect themselves from the wiles of the Americans and the Israelis, where the North Korea idea is much, much better. If you don't let them in your country, they can't cause you a problem.
What would happen if it goes back to this kind of like rewinds to 1991 in theory? What would happen?
Well, it'd be a major problem for everybody else, because they'd suddenly, now they want to start talking to the Russians. And the problem is, Sonia, this is the hilarious thing. Now Trump is going to take Greenland, and be in no doubt, he is definitely having Greenland, whether anybody else likes it or not.
Wow.
And the EU are powerless to stop him. They might turn around and Trump said we can do it the easy way or the hard way. I want Greenland, because it is the route around around Iceland and various areas. There are minerals there, but there's also important shipping lanes there. And of course, we've seen on the high seas all sorts of nonsense playing out. He is determined to have Greenland. And now NATO are finally, and various countries in the EU are looking around, Sonia, and going, oh dear, we backed the wrong horse here. Trump really isn't our friend.
Trump is one of the very few people in history to receive a second-hand Nobel Peace Prize. Here he is. I think the other one was Joseph Goebbels, actually.
It was, yes. Oh. Joseph Goebbels was handed the Nobel Peace Prize by a mewling sycophant of a neo-Nazi who decided, I'll give this to Joseph Goebbels. So it's not a good thing to be there. I noticed she didn't hand the money over, though, Sonia.
So, I mean, this obviously is to do with Venezuela. So,
yes,
he's by her, she's obviously temporary at the moment, but being treated as a hero. I wonder whether it was some sort of agreement that if he got involved, he also got that, because he's that kind of person, isn't he, to negotiate crazy stuff like that. If he can't get it directly, he'll quite happily accept a Nobel Peace Prize that is intended for somebody else.
Yes, I'm always happy to take credit for other people's work. And her work, let's face it, the Nobel Peace Prize was just political. Machado is desperate to form the new Venezuelan government. She hasn't got a chance. Before the Venezuelan government was overthrown, Jorge and Delcy Rodriguez were meeting the CIA in Doha. And they had at least 3 meetings, one in April, one in September, and one in October before the overthrow of Maduro. And they were responsible for making sure that, of course, Maduro was then captured by enlisting people to help. And, of course, Delcy Rodriguez will now give them exactly what they want. She was very much in on these meetings with the CIA. And, of course, Ratcliffe has since been there. Many American, shall we say, transportation planes have been landing in Venezuela. They're now starting to get the oil from Venezuela and everything else. And the problem that she has, Machado, is, of course, that Trump's best buddy, who is going to make an absolute ton of money from this oil, is the advisor to Trump on this. And he's saying leave the Rodriguez's in place because he's quite happy with what the CIA have sorted out here.
Let me read you this. Drumstick, you are based in, I think, Denmark, aren't you? Says... bases plus US oil rigs, etc. Greenland has agreed to everything US wanted so far, except becoming a US state. But you're adamant it's going to happen, Warren.
Yes, basically, the USA will have control of it. They turn around and said, we'll either purchase it, we'll do it the easy way or the hard way. But we are having basically, we are having full control of Greenland. Now, if that means leaving Greenland under the auspices of Denmark, but moving all the USA companies in there, oil companies, mineral companies, and of course, you can bet your bottom dollar that very shortly Greenland will have a base on it, an American base on it, the moment that it comes under full American control. And of course, the Greenland, shall we say, Denmark will agree to this. They don't really have a choice in it. What are Denmark going to do? And Trump has got even more furious after the EU's stupid idea to put 15 or 20 troops into Greenland from various different places. The Germans were there 24 hours and then flew them home. Trump turned around and said, right, we'll have tariffs. Here we go. We'll just put more tariffs on you. Give us Greenland or else.
Good Lord. There's so much seems to be happening at the moment. This Gaza Board of Peace, I noted that the board members, right? So you have Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, right? You have, who else do I have at the wall? Got to have a Rubio, of course. There's Rubio as well. So this Gaza Board of Peace, and former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair has been appointed as a founding member of the executive board of Donald Trump's Board of Peace for Gaza. What can you tell us about it? These seem like a huge amount of Zionists who are supposed to be putting peace into Gaza. Tell me something different, Warren.
Well, I'm afraid I can't. What we're also looking at, you see here, is Blair is a war criminal. Rubio is a warmonger. Kushner and Witkoff are just there to make money. And of course, there is the World Bank. Also, one of the members of the World Bank is also going to be on that board. And they're now offering it out. And what they're trying to do is build almost like a UN, if you like, with this Board of Peace. This isn't just going to be Gaza. They're offering a $1 billion every 3 years for any country or any oligarch who basically wants to get involved in this. So this is a business deal. This isn't anything to do with peace. This is about having control and basically having a structure that basically challenges the UN eventually.
Yeah, you said president of the World Bank. That's AJ Banga, isn't it? Who's joining? There's a whole load of people that they've also invited as well. Let me just have a look at some of them. Mark Carney from Canada, Anthony Albanese from Australia, Shehbaz Sharif from Pakistan. I don't see many actual people from Gaza there on that board. Am I missing something here, Warren?
Yeah, you're missing the fact that they don't want any Palestinians whatsoever in the Greater Israel Project. They'll be farmed out to other areas. The only people from Palestine that will be left in the Greater or the Greater Israel Project will be people who are working as waiters and garbage removal men. That's it, and that will be very, very few and far between. Now, remember that they've offered them money to move abroad to Europe, UK, Germany. Finland, Denmark, they've all taken Palestinians. They keep it very, very quiet, but there are regular flights when people make up their mind. So this is going to be, if you like, this is Israel's attempt at self-sufficiency because they're going to build, Elon Musk is part of this as well. Many, many people are going to be part of this Greater Israel Project, and every single one of them is either a Zionist or a billionaire.
It's extraordinary stuff. I mean, here's the thing. There are some people in the comments, they feel really disappointed by Donald Trump because he seemed to promise so much in terms of like busting, the elite parasites, the whole NWO project, all of this kind of stuff. But it turns out that he's actually a bigger globalist than almost anybody else. Do you think it was always meant to be this way?
I think so. When he came out with all the nonsense, at the end of the day, Trump's a businessman. Remember that he got over $200 million from Adelson, from Israel, of course. And of course, once you accept that money, Sonia, you're going to do exactly what you're told when it comes to that. Now, there's a strike coming, as we said to you, by the end of the month. So we'll have a strike on Iran. We've got the USS Abraham Lincoln on its way there. We've got lots and lots of planes that are leaving RAF Mildenhall tankers, jet fighters and everything that are all heading east, and we all know where they're going. They had a failed coup. What they did in Iran was basically they got Elon Musk to Starlink was distributed everywhere, and it wasn't until the Russians said to Iran, "Do you want help?" and Iran said, "Yes, please," and they cut off all the Starlink communication, and that stopped all the various cells from talking to each other in various cities around Iran, and then very quickly these protests have died down. Now, the other thing to remember on this, Sonia, is this is how they do it. What they do is they get these groups in, these NGOs, they give them lots of weapons, which were smuggled through the Zangezur corridor that we've told you about before, which is at the top of the north of Iran, in between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Now, the weapons are smuggled through there. The NGOs are already in place. And, of course, what happens then is they go out, they kill somebody who's not a protester. Then, of course, they create a fake riot on this death of the person that they killed, saying that the government killed them. And then, of course, they cause a riot. They start shooting at the government. It's interesting to note that over the 3,812 people we know that are dead so far, over 1,650 of them were non-protesters. That's right. People who were not outside protesting, but just people that were picked on, bribed by the so-called protesters.
I just want to go to this couple of comments. People saying Trump isn't a globalist. Here's one. Todd Morlank says the EU globalists hate Trump. He's not in their camp. He's a maverick. Just because he's not, obviously you can answer this, Warren, but just because he's not in their camp, it doesn't mean he's a maverick, right? And he's certainly not representing us. But what do you think, Warren?
Yeah, follow the money and follow the timing of events. He's got his own little global cabal. And right. The EU have got theirs.
Fair enough.
The World Economic Forum are run basically by economists and banks and everything else, and Trump is part of that. Now, if you own all the horses in the race, Sonia, you don't care which one wins. Right. Exactly that. He's cut from exactly the same cloth. He just does it differently to the way they do it at the World Economic Forum. But being no doubt whatsoever. That when it comes to money and influence and power, it's exactly the same playbook. Same playbook. Let's look over here to the UK. There's been some changes going on. Reform, they always claim that Reform is the party to end all parties. Of course, it's now becoming evident that Reform is the party where old Tories go to die. And we've had the reprehensible Robert Jenrick, who's come out and done this whole big patriotic thing. Robert Jenrick, by the way, is the man who wanted a Star of David at every entrance of the UK. So we already know who he is. He's a Zionist. He's a globalist. What do you think about him joining Reform? Well, I think basically the constituency he represents, you should make an anagram of that, and that's my description of Robert Jenrick. He's obviously the MP for Newark. The problem that we have to make an anagram of that, and there's exactly what I think of it. The problem is that you have this guy who'd have known. Is it a word that rhymes with anchor but begins with W? Yeah. I got you. Okay. Who would have thought an MP that would throw his principles aside and cross the floor, Sonia, as if, well, once again, please learn the lesson. And it's the same with Trump. Never, ever, ever trust a politician. They will let you down in the end. Right. And of course, Jenrick is one of these. He knows he's not going to get the leadership of the Conservative Party because Kemi Badenoch has gone a slight little bit up in her performances over the last couple of weeks. He knows that the Conservative Party is a dead duck and he wants his spoon in the gravy. He doesn't want to lose his seat. He wants to be able to get his spoon in the gravy for the next 5 years. So he's going to cross the floor and shake hands with Farage. This is just controlled opposition all ways round. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's literally somebody who's so desperate to be famous. And he reminds me of Matt Hancock. Matt Hancock was also fame hungry as well. And obviously after Matt Hancock had done everything that he humanly could to, well, take out a large population of the UK, he then went on, I'm a celebrity, absolutely reprehensible stuff. It's only a matter of time before Robert Jenrick is on some reality show because he's just desperate for fame. It's absolutely disgusting. Farage is off to Davos this week. Says
says it all, says Robert
Yes.
Davis. What do you think about Nigel Farage? I don't know if I've ever actually directly asked you that question.
Nigel Farage is controlled opposition for me. Very, very simply, we know what he feels about Russia. We know what he feels about Israel. He's going to be no different to anybody else. Independent MPs are the way to go. And what we've had the Conservative Party and the Labour for the God knows how long. Now we're going to have the Green Party or Reform. Really? No, we're not. We're either going to have climate madness or we're going to have pro-Israel, pro-war. So it is, once again, it's Hobson's choice. And as far as I'm concerned, Sonia, Nigel Farage, don't vote. As Billy Connolly once said, don't vote. It just encourages them. Vote for an independent. Vote for an independent.
Sean in the comments says, would you prefer to have Biden or Harris and Sunak or Starmer? Is that what you want? Madness. Sean, that feels like a false equivalence. I wouldn't prefer to have any of them. I actually believe that voting is the problem. And anybody who seems to think it's the solution is not as awake as they claim to be. And I'm not even sure anymore that the independents are doing any good, because these independents are gravitating towards places like Reform, Warren. I really don't know what the solution is, and I don't claim to have the solution, but I definitely know that keep repeating the same format over and over again is not the solution. Do you have any solutions, Warren, how we can change the world?
I do, very simply. When it comes to independence, you've got to find somebody in your own local area. When was the last time an MP came to your front door and said, what can I do for you? They always knock on your door and say, if I'm elected, I'm going to do this. Wouldn't it be refreshing to have somebody knock on your door and say, what would you like me to do for you? So find that person in your constituency who is able to do that. And I do take the gentleman's point that you just read out there. But I would also urge him to look at the fact that, yes, here we go. Here's Biden, here's Harris, here's AOC, here's this person and that person and whatsoever. We've selected them for you by our own party selection. So here's your selections that we're giving to you. You are free to vote how we tell you. So for me, Sonia, the only way to do it is take back local government and then expand it from there.
Absolute mad times going on. What's on your table this week? I bet you're busy at the moment, because it seems that everything is suddenly whipped into action after the kind of festive season.
Yes. Well, the last time we were on, we were telling you about imminent strikes on Iran before the end of this month, and that is coming up. And we're expecting that to come up. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. And of course, we expect Russian pushes in the area of Zaporizhia. And of course, the next thing that you will also see is the EU desperately trying to get hold of the frozen assets once again, Sonia. So do be on the lookout for that.
Thank you as ever for joining us, Warren. I take it you are back on your show this evening at warrenthornton.com. And I will, as ever, put a link in the description. Lovely to have you with us. We always appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. Warren Thornton, everybody.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for the comprehensive update, Warren, says Merv. Cheers, Warren, says Shin, and lots of other kind words. Back to the piano, Warren, says Herbert. I've got a funny feeling that might not be a real one, and I'm not sure that Warren. Oh, is it? What are you telling me?
It's not. No, it's not a real one. If you saw the place I'm currently staying in while we're having the studio built, you would turn around and go, "Oh my God, what's he doing there?"
It's a bomb site, but that's okay. That's okay. Where should a geopolitical analyst be other than in the middle of a bomb site? Right. Listen, take good care of yourself. Warren Thornton, everybody. What an absolute star. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Warren. Take good care of yourself. Wonderful. Wonderful to have him with us as always. And as ever, of course, peeps, you know that your opinion around here counts, which is why I always do everything I can and endeavor to read out anything that kind of like is in opposition to me, because I don't ever want to be a kind of echo chamber. I don't think that helps anybody. Quick one before I bring in my next guest, because he's here and it's fantastic to see him on the screen. I'm so thrilled. But a very, very quick one. And that is, please don't send me any messages to my inbox in X. There is something really weird happened. My inbox is full of messages that I couldn't access yesterday. And then it was asking me for a passcode that I don't have. And then I tried to input a new passcode and it wouldn't accept that. And it said, reclaim your messages. I reclaimed them. And the first message is like 3 weeks ago. So I know for a fact that people have written to me in the last 3 weeks. Well, they've all been deleted. X is a mess. It's in need of CPR. That said, if you follow me anyway, you probably won't see my messages anymore anyway, because I'm so shadow banned. But please feel free. If you have something that you want to talk to me about, please feel free to contact me at soniapoulton@sky.com. Keep away from X, says SMG. You've deleted X, healing guidance. Clean up your inbox, Sonia. Herbert, they've cleaned it up for me. They've taken away all my messages. Right, listen, let's bring in our next guest. Absolutely thrilled to have him with us. Here he is, Callum Smiles, the unconventional journalist, and he's in the Swiss alpine town of Davos. Good morning to you, Callum.
Hello, gorgeous. How are you?
Wonderful to have you with us. When did you arrive?
We got here yesterday morning. So yeah, I was on my way to the airport about 3 a.m., which is always the part I hate the most of these things, but you know, needs must and all that.
You were there last year as well, weren't you? I think we talked.
No, I didn't do last year was the first one I hadn't done in a few years because it was the same week as the American inauguration, and I went and dressed up as George Washington in DC.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. Were you there the year before? Because I've definitely talked to you from Davos.
And year before that. Yeah.
Got you. Absolutely got you. Of course, Davos, WEF, World Economic Forum, their annual, well, jamboree, whatever it is, loads of people. Trump is taking probably his biggest volume of people from the US there. There's going to be loads of people there. You're going to have,
I mean,
go on, talk to us.
USA House.
So that's it, is it? Oh, you're there. Tell us about USA House.
So that's usually the one that's MSNBC. I'm kind of good. It's not really, even though they're, a bit communist. I do miss the fact that they used to have the coffee machine that you could have your face printed on it. But no, this year it's been rented out by the Yanks, and it's a USA House. And I believe that's probably where Trump's going to be having one of his talks. Possibly. Might be, but it's probably actually in the main conference center. But if he is to do anything here, it would be in there. But I'll just say now, if I do have to run off, I mean, I'll take you with me, actually. But if I see someone good,
yes,
I'll take you with me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, that is absolutely my style of journalism. I love that. This
is where they all come out.
Right.
This here. And
right.
Basically, I feel like a fisherman just sat by the... sat on the riverbank with my coffee, waiting for a globalist.
Well, that...
to take the bait.
Waiting for a globalist to drop by. Talking about which, of course, Larry Fink is in the chair this year, isn't he? Because Klaus Schwab moved aside. Larry Fink is only temporary. What are we expecting from him?
Well, I don't know if you remember when I came here when I was with Rebel News, he didn't really want to give much away. Even when I asked him about, why are you here? Because not only have I never voted for you, I've never seen you on the ballot paper. And yet you're here making decisions that impact me at a nation state level and affect mine and every other everyday person's everyday life. And he wouldn't answer. I said, if the World Economic Forum is a force for good and the sort, here to impact it, to instill things that improve our lives, why the secrecy? Why do you need to keep secrets if it's about improving our daily lives?
Right.
And he said nothing still. I said, is it because what you're doing is nefarious? And he still gave me nothing, which I think at that point, saying nothing says a lot more than saying something. So hopefully I get to bump into him again this year and let it be known I didn't kill myself.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. And so let's just talk about, I want to go back to this largest US delegation because there's quite some names that's going on. They're going to have Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Trump, of course, Steve Witkoff, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. I think they're probably going for a big conversation about Gaza, about Iran. What can you tell us?
Well, the Iranian foreign minister is here this week. So I've got a feeling that the two are linked. I have my doubts about everyone. Well, except you, of course, Sonia. I never have my doubts about you. But I have my doubts about everyone. I hope that Trump is anti-globalist. I'm always suspicious of anyone in power. But it could be interesting to see that maybe this is the place where he forces their hand. I don't know. Or they might make some deals, some dodgy deals. I don't know, but I will be asking them.
Well, and it is important, going back to what you said about the kind of secretive nature of it. Obviously, we've seen that with the Bilderberg. We see it a lot with their groups. And the fact is, they are discussing matters that impact us all. It should be as transparent as it gets, shouldn't it? And there's a number of themes that they're going to be working on this week, I think. But the big one is, of course, artificial intelligence. That is going to be a big one. Is there anything you can tell us about that?
Sure. I've just actually gone and sat in on a conversation at USA House thing with a guy who's talking about merging tech and our bodies, and it did all sound a little bit nefarious. I didn't listen to it all because I mainly went in there for coffee and cake, but because that is the beauty about the elites, they do feed you very well. But it is a bit, it was, some of the things that were being said, I thought were a little bit suspicious. It all seemed a little bit, I don't think underhand is the right word to use, but through the back door sort of thing. It seems very, they're planning it to do it rather than planning it to see if we fancy it.
I mean, it's quite interesting, is it? Because last week there was this whole big thing with Keir Starmer where he was apparently rolling back on the whole digital ID thing. And digitalization, of course, is going to be a big thing as well.
Well, that's what the headline said. Right.
Go on. Expand on that.
Well, so a lot of people saying, "Aha, we won. He's not going ahead with it." That's kind of what the headline said. But when you actually read into the articles, it's that they're not using it for a couple of things. They're still using it a lot with, they're saying, with immigration and stuff. But they've asked for 10 things, knowing full well we'd fight back, and they'd settle on 6, knowing full well that we would then go, "Haha, we won." But actually, that's just how they do things.
It is the same thing, isn't it? You oftentimes, I get the impression, I think many of us do, that they put these things out there to see how the public are going to react to it. Yeah. And then they're like, okay, as you say, we wanted 10, but at least we can get 5, right? It's that kind of thing, isn't it? What about social media? Is there talk out there about what's been happening in terms of like grok and undressing people? Anything like that have you picked up so far?
No, not really. I mean, today, this is like, it all started about 2 hours ago. Like today is
I know,
day
you're
one,
right.
so
You're right at the start of it there, aren't you?
Yes, Rebel News aren't, so hopefully I get we can take the lead.
You're out there for Vox Populi, right? Callum, you're out there for Vox Populi? Did he hear me? Hello, Callum? Did you hear me there? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I run it. It used to work for me.
Callum? Has he frozen?
Can you hear me, Sonia?
I can hear you, but you've frozen. It's fine. You're out there for Vox Populi, right?
It's the Wi-Fi.
Hello? That feels...
Oh, there you go. We're back.
There you go. We're back. You're out there for Vox Populi, right? So it's going funny. It's internet dropout.
Yes.
What's going on? Smash the like button or karma will hit your bottom, says Randy. Can you hear me?
I think they're onto us, Sonia. They're onto us. I can hear you much better now, yeah.
It was going so brilliantly. I mean, like it was crystal clear. And then when I started to just ask a few questions, it starts to go a bit funky, which is just odd, isn't it? You're out there for Vox Populi, right?
Yes, so I'm now out here with Vox Populi. People can follow this all at vpdavos.com. So yeah, if people can, if they are feeling generous, can help us with doing this, because obviously we don't have that mainstream media money.
I don't know much about...
vpdavos.com is where...
I don't know much about VP. Tell us a little bit about them. I don't know much about them. Tell us a little bit about them.
Well, the beauty with Vox Populi is it's the first company I've ever worked for where I can say whatever the hell I want and they don't fire me.
Okay, interesting. Because people are asking questions, and this happened last time, and I think it's interesting because people are asking questions about VP. Is there a reason? Is it controversial at all?
Vox Populi, oh, we're very controversial. I mean, I definitely am. You know that much.
But I mean, is there anything about them? They're not like, who funds them? They're not part of like globalism, are they? I just don't know enough about them.
No. So the guy who set it up, he's an Australian. He basically made his money in oil, but he hated how things were going during the lockdowns in Australia, and basically wanted to fund his own media outlet where people could question anything. And
Right.
yeah, and so basically he lets me do what I want, and I love it.
Well, I have to say I loathe Rebel News, so I'm very glad that you're not working out there for them, frankly, anyway, because I know that they're big agenda pushers and they just obviously align very much with globalism. So
Well,
what
that's why
are
I
you
got fired.
Oh, right. Well, good. That's a badge of honor. So what are you planning to do today? What's your movements today?
So I'm really wanting to come across Rachel from accounts. You might know as the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Okay, she's going to
'Cause
be
I
there
know she-
today. Is she there? Is she
Well,
there today?
She's here this
Rachel
week.
Reeves.
I'm not sure what day, but she is here this week. So hopefully I can bump into her. I've got questions for Nigel, because I know he's here this week. So if I bump into him, I'm going to be asking him some uncomfortable questions. Christine Lagarde, the head of the ECB, the European Central Bank. She used to be head of the IMF. She got found guilty of criminal negligence when she gave over a 400 million euro payout from government money. Yet she now wants to ban any payment in 1,000 euros or cash more.
They're just so compromised, these people, aren't they? Is Starmer heading out there?
Do you know what? I've not seen anything like that confirmed, but we do
No,
know that
nor have
Keir loves
I.
it here.
Right. Yes, he does, because he actually did say, didn't he, quite clearly when he was asked
Prefers Davos to Westminster, yeah.
Exactly that. And some people don't necessarily understand what that comment is, but that's a very insider comment, isn't it? So what he's essentially saying is he prefers the machinations of the World Economic Forum to actually British politics, of which he has been voted into. So it's kind of odd. Anybody else exciting who you're looking forward to?
I want the Iranian foreign minister. Oh, I got some questions for him.
What questions have you got for him?
Well, I want to ask him if he's having a nice time here, and if he says yes, I'll ask him, what do you think about all these women with their hair uncovered, and do you think they look very nice? And and then I'll basically move into, because your government likes to stone women to death when they remove their head coverings. So how do you feel about all these women here? Why should you be here in the so-called liberal West when you firmly believe that these people should be killed?
I see. Well, I'm sure you'll be on his Christmas card list in no time. Oh, no, he probably doesn't celebrate Christmas. A question. Shin said, what does Callum hope to achieve reveal this week?
If I can get one more normie to start questioning how the real world works, then I've done my job.
Got you. Anything else that you feel we should be looking out for at Davos this week?
Do you know what? If people are interested, they can actually go online on the World Economic Forum website, and you can actually watch a lot of these talks live.
It's true.
Which is where a lot of the devil in the detail is shared. However, it's boring to your normal everyday person, so people don't watch. And the devil tells us what he's doing, but people don't see because it's hidden in the boring detail. So if people have got time and they want to go online and watch some of these talks, I do recommend they do it.
Reba says, does Callum have guidelines from Davos on what he's allowed to ask?
So that there, down there is the main west building that basically I can't get a pass to go in. So a lot people before said, oh yes, they're controlled media because how do they get that close to these people? The fact is, this is an open highway. It's just a promenade, and there's lots of these buildings down here. I don't know how well you can see, Sonia, but a lot of them have like nice, colourful skins for this week. They basically these buildings get rented out at a stupid cost.
Wait,
by companies.
They've changed the look of those buildings just for this week.
Yeah.
Where are they keeping the prostitutes? Because obviously we know that at West.
Oh, I don't start my shift yet.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
No,
Ooh,
and
that
so
might
a
be
lot
bit
of them will be
telling.
going in all the hotels and stuff.
Right. Marco said you didn't actually answer the question. What was
Yeah,
the
sorry,
question, Marco? Go on then.
Yeah, no. So he was asking about guidelines. No, the WEF can't tell me what I can and can't say because, like I said, I'm on a public highway. I can do whatever the hell I want here, provided I don't physically assault anyone. And actually, it is quite easy to not assault people when there are snipers around. And I have literally looked up at them before when I was hassling Tony Blair. So yeah, so I can say whatever I want, Marcus. That's the beauty about this. This is like the one time of the year where you can get up close and personal to about 99% of some of the most powerful people in the world.
And I'm looking forward to it. So I'll be looking out for your videos. I will, of course, be looking what they're doing at WEF. And it really irritates me that it is kind of portrayed the way that it is. It should be way more transparent. It's not. It's still, obviously, they have their little meeting rooms. And even the stuff that they put on the website is the stuff they want us to know about. That's what they do. So that is always alarming to me. Anything you want to say before you leave us today?
Yeah, if people do head over to vpdavos.com, that's where basically all our videos and stuff will be collated. And that's where, if I don't pay anyone who can't, because I know the economy's tight and, times are tough. But if anyone is in the position to help out with costs, that would be greatly appreciated. But, like I said, if you can't, liking and sharing the work is just as important. So I'm not going to beg for money like my former employee. But we'll be doing it regardless.
Yeah, I understand. I do the same thing, and you just kind of jump and hope the universe will catch you, really. Thank you for joining us this morning. By the way, the weather looks really nice for an alpine town. Is it warm? It looks sunny. Clear sky.
Everyone else is dressed properly, as my mum would say, but I'm in my t-shirt. It is, when the sun's on you, it is nice. But it was a bit chilly this morning. I mean, it's clear skies. They're probably using HARP, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's clear skies. So at night it is chilly, but in the day you get the sun on you, and it's gorgeous.
Blue Moon says, go Callum, seen you last year chasing Fink for a mile or two and no answer. Well, let's hope we get some answers today. Where did Callum say you can watch the meetings? Katie, on the WEF website. They have a selection of them there. Listen, take good care of yourself. Thank you for joining us. Very much appreciate it. Give my love to Davos and all the prostitutes.
Will do.
Take good care of yourself.
My pleasure, Sonia. See you later.
Bye. Bye. Wonderful. Oh, listen, my live chat is full of some incredibly suspicious people. Incredibly suspicious. I don't actually think for a second that Callum is necessarily a globalist. There are politics that he and I do not agree on. And I don't necessarily agree with everything that he said about Iran or Trump. But you notice around here that when I bring on my guests, I let them say their piece because I think that's really important. And Callum is actually kind of opposite to Warren. So I think it's a good balance. I think it's a good balance to have two different characters. Yes, indeed, I do. We're going to be welcoming lovely Zoe shortly. But before we do, let me just say this. This is weird. Anybody seen this, right? This is Turning Point USA. And they have sent a cease and desist out. They may have sent more, but this is to Zach. And Zach de Gregorio claims to be an accountant. And what he does is he follows the money. It's a good thing to do, right? And have a listen to what he had to say about this. So he received a cease and desist from Turning Point UK. This is what he had to say.
A lot of people out there making videos about...
No, we do not want Larry Fink up on the screen. Bear with me, peeps. Here we go.
So you should pay attention to this. They have started sending out cease and desist letters, and for some reason, they've decided to start with me. Apparently, they cannot handle the criticism from my teeny tiny YouTube channel. This letter is showing the world the type of organization Turning Point has become under Erica Kirk. They want to send legal letters to small YouTube creators.
Really weird stuff. So essentially, they've sent him a cease and desist, and I've read it. And it's to do with him, as I say, following the money. His account is Wolves and Finance, and he regularly uploads to YouTube and to social media. And in his uploads, he claims to have analyzed like tax records, state election records, corporate registrations. He says it reveals a deeply troubling pattern connected to Turning Point and affiliated entities. Now, as we all know, when Charlie Kirk was said to have been murdered in September last year, then Erica, his wife, assumed the position of head of Turning Point USA. And I think most of us would agree, while we do accept that grief impacts everybody in a different way, I don't think I've ever seen anybody grieve quite like Erica Kirk, because she's all obviously sparkling pantsuits and pyrotechnics and big hugs and overjoyed and books and tours and all manner of things. So she has obviously left people with a very, very nasty taste in their mouth, because she appears to be very much all about the money. And so this guy, Zach, he started following the money as an accountant. He received this demand to cease and desist defamatory comments. And if you're not familiar, a cease and desist is like the first step in kind of defamation. Some people call it a pre-claim letter. But the fact is, a lot of people at the moment are making videos about Turning Point, and obviously none more so than Candace Owens. She's making a stack of stuff. She's making loads of claims about Turning Point USA. And so what I think is interesting is, why have they turned their ire on somebody who is not well known? I don't know about you, anybody in the comments. I did not know this guy before he received this. And suddenly he's being sued. No, Christine, I don't think she has done any good for their reputation at all. I just want to know who is looking after their two babies. Yeah. And obviously the thing about Erica Kirk, we sold this idea that they were Christians, they're a traditional family. She kind of stays at home with the babies and everything. Absolutely not at all. It is evident to anybody who's seeing this that Erica Kirk is now in her element running the show. Anyway, they've issued to him with this cease and desist, and it is because he is highlighting that there seems to be an issue with their money. And Greg said he's done a couple of videos on TP USA, and he's obviously near to the mark, and they wouldn't be reacting like this. Yes, Iggy, Candace is now talking time travel. It's just weird. It's just so weird stuff. Did you see a shirt post yesterday? Read the film, Snake Eyes, character names, plot. No, Magic Mac, what was that about? I've never heard of him, Peggy. And suddenly he's the man who's got, a lawsuit from Turning Point USA for saying there's a question mark about their money. And as I say, he's gone into it quite extensively. He's an accountant. I think if anybody is equipped to go through the finances of a company, it might be an accountant, and that might be the problem. He's clearly hitting the mark. I don't trust Turning Point USA, whether Charlie Kirk's running it or whether Erica Kirk is running it. Okay, I absolutely don't. Not my type of people at all. They cracked time travel in the 50s, says Shug. Too close for comfort, says Hope, Love and Peace. Blue Eye says TikTok. And can I just thank you to Kath Hutton? Thank you so much for my super chat this morning. And thank you, C Scotland, also for my super chat. I very much appreciate it. Right, I want to bring in our friend Zoe Johnston of Synchronized Souls podcast. Here she is. Good morning to you. And can't unmute your guest because they chose to mute themselves. There she is.
I'm just testing you, Sonia. I'm just testing you. Grand rising, everybody.
Grand rising, Petal. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not going to say I'm fantastic, because then I wouldn't be being authentic. I am in the winter slumber at the moment, hence no content for a while. But yes, I am listening to my body and to the seasons for the first time in about 35 years.
We have it all arse backwards, don't we? So we are told, obviously, we're in the Northern Hemisphere and people in the Southern Hemisphere are experiencing spring and summer now. So it's different. But in the Northern Hemisphere, it is winter. And we are told that January the 1st is the time when we start all again, right? That we go on a diet. We have this list of improvements. Why is it so ridiculous to you, Zoe?
I think it's absolutely bonkers. If you think about it, The winter is everything's asleep. There is no leaves coming. There is no blossoms coming out. All the animals are hiding and sleeping and hibernating and foraging, and it's just mad that we have been programmed, and it's obviously been brought in by design to keep us away from that slumber. We've got Christmas in our face. We've got stress, lights, music, presents.
Right.
It starts from then, and then we're brought into New Year, and it's New Year, new me. No, no, you're going to fail. I hate to say that, and if people do start in the New Year and you succeed, amazing. Hats off to you. But be careful, because you will burn out by the time that spring comes, and that's the time that we should be doing things. So I just feel if you were trying to, this is a great thing I learned today, funnily enough, if you tried to plant a seed into a winter hard ground, what's going to happen? Nothing. It's literally impossible. So any seeds that you plant just now are not going to become fruitful. We need to do, because it's a Capricorn moon, the new moon as well, it all ties in. And Capricorns are very got to get everything done, got to build structure, foundations. And yes, foundations. So if you want to go to the gym and you want to get better, go and buy your trainers, go and buy a pair of shorts. You know, start the little things, the foundations. Or if you want to write a book, go and get yourself a little book, a new pen or a new laptop. Start the tiny small things that don't take a lot of your energy, but that seed is out the packet. I look at this as compost time. This is the time that we're going to get our compost ready. We're not even getting the seeds out the packet. We're just making that foundation for things to grow as such. And winter is not the time to do it. I've put on loads of weight. I'm not starting diets. I'm waiting. I'm waiting until I'm more active when the spring comes in. And that will be, my new year will be around the spring equinox, which is like March, hence the April Fool's Day on the 1st of April and what have you. So yeah, I'm just picking my seasons this time and listening to my body. I am tired, I am exhausted, I could sleep 12 hours a day quite easily. So I've taken some time off my channel just to focus on, you know, what's my foundations for the rest of the year? What am I going to start on? So yes, that is what I'm doing this year rather than fighting against it, which we're all doing because we're programmed.
And the reason that I know what you're saying is absolutely the truth is because it's resonating so strongly with the comments. Like, people are all over this. And I think it's interesting what you said there. And I can't remember the exact words, so I'm going to paraphrase you. But it's essentially about this whole idea that we have this fake New Year taking us away from who we really are. There has to be sort of like a spiritual equation to it, doesn't it? Like dumbing us down, taking us away from our soul. So expand on that a little bit for me.
I feel, you know, as my spiritual path's gone on and a lot of people are waking up, that nature is medicine. Nature, you know, Pachamama, Gaia, Mother Earth, whatever you want to call her, she gives us nourishment. She gives us herbs to heal us. She gives us sustainability and support and shelter. And we're so taken away from that by things like the internet and devices. You know, the Black Mirror series has got it perfect. Just the aspect of taking us away from that nature. Even things like the betting apps. I know I'm kind of digress, but lately I've noticed how many betting apps, adverts. And it's like, somebody's won this money. So you're like, oh, you know, it's just all programming. I see it absolutely everywhere. And that's also keeping us away from nature. So think about what your body needs. Think about grounding yourself. Think about bringing yourself back down. Become winter. Become that solid ground. Become the one that's resting. And it's not feasible for everybody that's got families, have got full-time jobs. But when you can, have that balance. Nature literally solves everything. It's helped with my anxiety. It's helped with my complex PTSD. It's a hard one for people that are stuck in a house and they've got anxiety. So I say, try a plant. Look after a plant in your house. You know, you might not be able to get to gardens or look after things, but a plant or like a wee fish tank. So that's you doing your grounding. You're saying thanks to Mother Earth. And then when you start doing things like that, it comes back to you because she likes people keeping care of her birds and her plants and everything. So you do actually get abundance back when you connect with nature. Sorry, I've got a dry mouth.
You go for it. People are saying how fabulous you look, even though you're running yourself down and all that. You were looking fabulous. Absolutely. Read you some of this. And this is interesting. M's comment. M says listening to our bodies is key. Absolutely, it is. And Shug said it's always about upsetting our cycles and frequencies, of course, because they take us away from the root of who we are. We're far more easy and pliable, aren't we, to manipulate? I mean, that I think that's in part it as well. And I think it's really important what you say is even things like planting yourself or the firm ground, all of that is really important. And we've been so taken away from it in this rush to get to the next day. Today they call Blue Monday, Zoe, right? And we've talked about this before, and they call it Blue Monday. They say the third Monday in January is when people are most depressed after Christmas, and it's furthest away from their holiday. But in fact, it was actually invented by a travel agent to sell holidays during this very cold period when people. So it's very manipulative. And do you think a lot of it isn't? I mean, I think it's not just about dumbing us down, but I think that there's so much money to be made around this whole idea of a fake New Year, isn't it? So it's also a commercial enterprise, isn't it?
And going back to the Blue Monday thing, you know, I didn't realise that. I think it was last year you actually mentioned it. I made a video about it for my channel about Blue Monday. And then I think on one of your streams you'd mentioned that. It's like the whole Kellogg's breakfast is the best meal of the day, you know? We don't realise it's actually companies that are saying this, and it comes through, and, you know, it comes through. And my mum's always been like, breakfast is the best meal of the day. And I'm like, but it's not, you know? So we're learning. And with the Blue Monday thing, I mean, I don't want to get a bit deep, but my partner took his life about 16 years ago on the 16th of January. And this was years and years ago. And I had a little time out on Saturday, and I had a little wee candle for him. And do you know what popped in my mind? I thought, I wonder all the people that take their lives at New Year have got this added pressure of New Year, new me. I've got to be the best. I've got to, you know, I'm letting my family down because I'm not doing this and that. So I do feel that that's half the design as well. It was just a little reflection I had on Saturday, and I thought, wow, I wondered if that is 80% of the added pressure of the people that are saying a New Year is a big, I've got to carry this over to the New Year or whatever. And I do always think that, you know, but once again, less light, not getting your vitamin D. It's a power to your mental health. It's difficult. It really is. But you've got to know that it's not you, it's the planets, it's nature, it's your cycle. If you feel tired just now, brilliant. It means that your body's working. You know, if you're bouncing off the walls wanting to do things, then
I mean, exactly that, right? And it's really that simple. Is that it is. We are to be attuned with nature, but I do agree with you. I do think that there are all of these commercial pressures that are put on us. I've made a video before about how our version of Christmas is really a Hollywood version. This whole idea that a man and wife and two baby bears stand around an open fire with a full Christmas tree, and love always comes together at Christmas, and families are happy. And why is somebody calling me right now? And excuse me, people, sorry. I was supposed to have turned off my mobile and I didn't. Let me just turn it off. Let me get rid of that.
It's Mother Earth calling.
Sorry about that. Definitely is. Sorry, I do apologize. Let me just turn this off. I get so many phone calls. Yes, so I wonder how much of it is this commercial pressure that is put on people to be a certain way. And I'm so sorry to hear about your partner, darling. It's absolutely devastating that one has to experience something like that in their lifetime, because obviously the point about people taking their lives is that it's the people left behind who are usually most impacted by it all as well. So I think there really is something in what you've just said there, that pressure to be fresh, start anew, be super slim, everything's fine, a creaseless face, all this sort of stuff. And it's absolutely insane. How do we go about? One of the things that I think I would like to consider is about embracing kind of slower hobbies right now. Like, you know, do you do that? You know, whatever it is, baking, reading, knitting, puzzling, whatever. Do you do something like that?
I actually started cross stitch last year because I was gearing myself up for the winter. I was like, I've got my colouring books, I've got my cross stitch, and then I realised how bad my eyesight was. So trying to do cross stitch when it's in the winter and you've not got natural light wasn't the best. But I'd done the whole, right, January, I'm going to go into my channel, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then I had like a personal flood in my flat, which just absolute was chaos. That's a whole other podcast. But I was forcing it, Sonia. I was like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then, workmen are going to be here in 10 minutes. I was cancelling streams. I was fighting against it. The universe was literally going, take a break, Zoe, take a break. And I wasn't taking heed. And then the big flood happened. And I just literally thought, do you know what? I'm going to listen to myself. The winter's been hard. This is the only breakfast show that I watch about the news. I don't watch the news. I don't have any interest in politics, religion, wars, anything. I like to be aware. So hence why I come here to find out what's going on from the truthers as such. But I don't feed into it at all. If something
Good.
mega's happening, I'll find out, but that saved my mental health a lot, because my motto on my channel is shining light in darker times. And we've just got to keep I hate the whole lift your vibration. It sounds
Yeah.
a bit toxic positivity.
Well, we've
doesn't
talked
it?
about that a lot, haven't we? And the problem is, of course, again, that has been monetized, and we hate that. It's just awful. It's the commercialization even of spiritual matters. It's awful. Talking about darkness, Captain Flint makes an excellent point, and that is, how about the children locked in a classroom from dark to dark every day? Miserable experience, isn't it? So absolutely miserable.
Absolutely.
And fun times forever. Also, great comment. They put pressure on to build a family and then do everything they can to undermine it. Indeed. And Abby Create says, I'm still in hibernation and have time to think and plan for the year ahead. Just as you previously mentioned, not much action, just planning. But planning is action in its own right, isn't it, Zoe?
That's just starting the foundations. If you've got an idea, don't be like, oh, it's the winter, I'm not meant to do anything. Write it down. Write all these things down. As I said, if you want to go to the gym in a few weeks, order your trainers, buy yourself a new short or a new sports bra, and then, you've started that foundation, and it is up to you to keep it going. And it's also a great time to reflect on what didn't work in 2025 as such, and just be like, okay, that didn't work. I'm going to try this. And once again, just a journal, even if it's the most random thought, just write it down. Because sometimes that is our higher self trying to scream at us, and it'll seem the most random thing, like clean out a kitchen cupboard. You're like, okay, do it, and then you'll find something that you've been looking for ages. Or I just listen to myself so much more these days, Sonia, and I feel the most content that I've been for a long time.
How much of that is, how much of your contentment has been contributed to by you having synchronized souls? Because this is a really important outlet for you, isn't it? How has it developed over the last year?
Honestly, I had, as you know, well, some people may not know, I'm a healing channel. I do oracle cards, I do fun game nights, and then we also had the Only Cans part of it, which is amazing, with Craig, my co-host. We covered the McCann case, amongst other things. But what I realised was that YouTube didn't know where to send me. So I've got true crime and I've got healing on one side. So it was getting up kind of lost in the algorithm. So I've taken all my Only Cans stuff off Synchronized Souls, and we've made our own channel, which is Only Cans 25. So I need to focus on my healing. Only Cans will always be there. Craig is just going through some life changes at the moment. We will align when the time is right. Not forcing that either. It's just for Synchronized Souls, for me, it's a huge thing. I've lived kind of a depression for the last 10 years in another area. I've moved house, and this is my connection to people. I don't do it for ego. I don't do it for clicks or likes. It's just so nice to see people coming into the chat and being like, oh, I was feeling crap until I popped onto your stream. Or the Monday games nights, it's just a laugh. It's nothing heavy. It's just us using our brains and having little interactive games. As I say, it's that lifting your vibrations, but not doing it on a, oh, I've got to strive to be better. Just laughing. Laughing is the best medicine, second to nature. So that's
I love it. I make sure I have a daily laugh, and most of it revolves around my dog. I don't know if my dog is actually dancing now. If you play ABBA's Dancing Queen, my dog actually dances. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. She spins around. She loves it. She loves it. Father, son, brother, friend said, as a manic depressive, highly sensitive empath, ex-screw with complex PTSD, lone parent, much, much more. Most mates this, and no, we don't consider death simply because of resolutions. I understand that. I get that. But also, I do think that there are societal pressures on people. And also, I believe very much in individual differences, even though the thing about psychology and the reason it's a science is we can mark human reactions and interactions, but still it comes down to the individual. So if you say blue to Zoe, she's going to have a different thought than I am when you say blue to me. So I get what you're saying, father, son, brother, friend. I get what you're saying, but I also do think that societal pressures will impact some people in the same way as awful video games that murder people will mean nothing to some people, but may act as a trigger to other people, I think. And we've been joined. We've got people from all over the world joining us live, which is absolutely wonderful. Down the Rabbit Hole is in Wellington, New Zealand. Lovely to have you with us. Wonderful. And so what is the, like, if somebody just said to you, I really feel that I'm kind of letting myself down and January is passing, I haven't given up drinking, I haven't given up smoking. And when would you say is, because a lot of people obviously talk about spring, but do you think that is the right period when we start to introduce new life?
Do, but don't wait for that date and be like, everything until the 20th of March.
Right.
If you've got the strength in you to maybe start cutting down your alcohol, start cutting little things out of your diet. Don't set yourself huge, massive goals, because you're not going to succeed no matter what time it is of the year. Little baby steps. I feel like John Hendon now. I've learned so much from that man. But little baby goals, so that you can do those ones, and you're like, oh well, I've done that, and then you get that little inner strength to do your bigger goals. Just don't be harsh on yourself, peeps. Don't force things. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Trust your gut, and the time will find you.
Many of us have grown up in an era with this whole idea that if you don't feel pain, there's no gain, right? What do you think about that? That feels very outdated nowadays, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like the whole sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt
Right.
me. I cannot stand that.
It's a ridiculous idea. People, enter psychiatrists' offices at the age of 30 because awful things were said. But words hurt people. So, but do you think that we are becoming a more in tune society or less? I wonder if it's easy to be able to work that out. I feel that people around me are much more in tune, but that might just be the kind of people who gravitate towards me. I don't know.
Yeah, there's people being in tune with themselves or sitting watching loads of YouTube videos thinking that they're progressing and becoming enlightened by watching it. Basically, it's discernment. Don't be idolizing anybody. Don't be torturing yourself with motivational videos and keep going even though you feel like you can't. Don't just. I think that sets yourself up for falls as well. It's just going back to listening to yourself. If you're really struggling, you need to put right. So 2 weeks ago, I was like, am I going insane? Have I got depression? And all my friends were going, I'm really tired, Zoe. And I'm like, it's the winter. But when it came to me, I started doubting myself, and I'm like, Zoe, practice what you preach. It's the winter. I've just went through mega stress with a flat. I've just moved, lots and lots of things. This is the time for me just to sort of compress a little bit, and decompress a little bit.
Exactly.
And not have the new beginnings, or I've got a new house, I need to do this. I'm going to wait for those times, yes.
And it's really important to acknowledge that as well. I don't know who it was, I can't remember who said it, but they said before you diagnose yourself with depression, make sure you are not in fact surrounded by arseholes or something like that. And that's kind of it, isn't it? We have to, I can't remember who it was. It was, I think, famous psychiatrist. I can't remember. And I probably paraphrased. I don't think he actually said arseholes, but that's my kind of language. But yeah, you're absolutely right, is that we have to take less pressure off ourselves. And when we slow down and become more in tune, then our body naturally instructs us what it needs, doesn't it? I've actually, for as long as I can remember, Zoe, probably from the age of 16, I've always had at least 2 cups of coffee first thing in the morning. That I've now changed that. Over the last, I don't know, maybe 4 months, I now have warm water, and that was a huge change for me. And but it's little thing, because my body was actually not enjoying it. I was getting this really weird buzz first thing in the morning. And actually, when I have the warm water, it cleanses my body from my sleep. And it's though, but I learned that one from Ling, a wonderful Chinese herbalist, fabulous, but also from taking account of my own body. And when we're so busy watching what we're supposed to be doing according to a fake calendar, the Gregorian calendar, we can't begin to watch what is right for us, can we?
No. No, all
slowing
we want to
down.
do is like just stuff our faces. Like that's what we would do if we were animals. We would be stuffing our faces, going to sleep for a couple of months and coming back up. That's not feasible as humans. And like I learned the other day as well, we're human beings, not human doings.
Right.
So we are meant to just be. And there's people in the comments I've just seen. Somebody's like, "I'm going to take the day off now." Like,
But
don't be
cool
cheeky.
though. But cool though, if you actually can, without obviously getting fired or anything, cool.
Yeah,
And
that's
even
what
if
I thought.
but you know what? I'm reaching the stage in my life now where it's like absolutely follow what your instinct says. Because if
Mhm.
your instinct says take the day off and hang the consequences, well, maybe you just need a boot to leave. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm kind of looking for all of those undertones about what people really want. So when people are really shitey with me, I look in between it. Who are they really? What are they really about? Oftentimes I find that they're just a terrified little young person, even though they're like whatever 40, 50, 60. So I'm trying to do, but you can only do that by slowing down, can't you? There is so much to be had for slowing down, and yet we are encouraged to speed up right at the time when nature is allowing us to slow down, Zoe.
Yeah, and it's everywhere. Even like the Jet2 holiday adverts. It's like, darling, hold my hand. See if I hear that one more time, I'm ready to launch devices. It's starting already. As I say, the betting, the holidays, come on, let's go. And it's like, calm down. We're not even in February yet. Little baby steps. Not planting seeds. Maybe getting the seed packet out, but not quite taking the seeds out. As I say, that compost vibe, that fermenting, what am I going to do? And
Right.
writing things down so that you can always go back and check.
Peggy
That's
says,
very important.
always trust your intuition. Absolutely. Absolutely vital. Anything you want to add before you leave us today, Zoe? When are you next podcasting?
I think I am. This is terrible. I don't even know when I'm actually on. I am on the 26th for a little games night, and then I am back doing Oracle cards on the 1st of February to find out what February is going to bring for everybody. So that should be a little interesting one.
And talking about February, one of the first things I get rid of in February would be Valentine's Day. What a load of nonsense that is.
Honestly.
This forcing of people to pick up substandard flowers from garages is just ridiculous. It's
We've
just
got the pet stuff out in Pets at Home, the Pets Valentine stuff out already at Pets at Home. I'm like, oh my God. Like, what is going on? Pets Valentine.
I've
Brilliant.
seen some Easter eggs. I've seen Easter eggs in shops. Absolutely.
Wow.
Herbert said pancake day is what it's all about. Oh, listen,
Absolutely.
Herbert, man, I have pancakes whenever I want them. And it's the same way with love, right? I have love any time of the year, not just reserved until, but I get your point. If you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours, says Cameron. That's lovely. Did you? Shugs or Easter eggs as well. So it was lovely to have you with us. I thought you were absolutely perfect because obviously you're a little Capricorn as well. You're an upright Capricorn, and meaning that you are productive. You get things done. We won't talk about the reverse. They're absolute nightmare. Usually psychopathic, actually.
It's so mad that, isn't it? Complete opposite. It's so mad that. But thanks for having me on, Sonia, and thank you for your support for day one. It really means a lot to me and Craig, of course.
Ditto. Absolutely ditto, my darling. My parrots love Zoe, says Randy. Fellow Cappy, says Lisa. Take good care of yourself. We Capricorns. Hey, says Abby Creates. Clearly. Wonderful, Zoe, says Healing Guidance. Lovely to have her with us. Zoe Johnston, everybody from the Synchronized Soul podcast. And I will put a link in the description below if I haven't already. Take good care of yourself. Lovely to have you with us. Much love to Zoe, says Shug. Indeed. Take care. Wonderful, wonderful. And if you would like to join me and talk about, well, I don't know about anything really, because I'd really love to do a phone in, but I can never rely on people phoning in. That's the problem. Thank you, Zoe, says Peggin. Smash WEF Sonia starts today. Yes, Natasha, we had a live report from WEF, and it was great. Although lots of people in the comments had some issues. But I don't think with me. Thanks, Zoe. Cheers, Zoe. Lots of good stuff. Right, let's get on to some viewer emails, shall we? This is interesting. Let me bring in some new images, beautiful people. Beautiful people. How you doing? Why have I just suddenly gone into something of a Cockney accent? That's really weird. I feel like somebody is channeling through me. I'm not quite sure what any of that is about. Do you ever have those moments? I have these moments where I just suddenly start singing like made up lyrics, and I have no idea why, and I don't know what it means. It's quite bizarre. Cockney, SMJ, Cockney. How you doing, mate? How you doing? Mel, haven't you got a bit of a, because oftentimes people in Kent and Essex, they can have a little bit of a Cockney accent. Knees up, Mother Brown, says Herbert. Indeed. Chaz and do you remember Chaz and Dave? They were all right, weren't they? They were a nice bunch of geezers. Nice. Right. Lucy Connolly. Let's talk about this. Thank you, SMG. You're a star. Says, Dear Sonia, I loved that interview you did with Miri Finch about Lucy Connolly being a Psy-Op. Something is definitely off with the former Tory councillor's wife. Have you seen that she has been warned she may be recalled to prison over social media posts? Yet she's online constantly, still being as vulgar and vile as the tweet that led her to prison. And I'm not sure why she isn't being more cautious. Do you think she's a shill? Asked Tom from Blackpool. Now, I don't know about that, Tom. I don't. But I do know she is absolutely a psychological operation that has been weaponized against the rest of us. For those who are unfamiliar, former childminder Lucy Connolly was jailed for 31 months for a social media post made in the wake of the Southport attacks in July 2024, when that monster Axel Rudakabana burst into a dance space for children, murdered 3 girls, injured many others. And Lucy Connolly had made this very emotive post in which she said that asylum hotels should be set on fire. And she didn't care if that made her racist and all that sort of stuff. Well, so she served 380 days in prison. She is, as I say, the wife of a former Conservative councillor. She was released on license, subject to conditions not to reoffend or face being recalled to prison. So she was giving a podcast interview last Wednesday, and she said that she'd been sent a warning letter over a social media post that she had reposted, which called for Donald Trump to remove Sir Keir Starmer from Britain in the same manner, of course, in which Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was removed. And Miss Connolly said, I generally don't know what is okay by their standards to say and what is not. I've been pulled up for several things last week with a warning letter, which is telling me that the posts are not of good behavior and none of which I'm in agreement with. I don't think that's such a word, but I could be wrong. She said, I shared a tweet of someone else where they joking, tongue in cheek said, could Trump come and take Starmer like they did? Well, loads of people like Lucy Connolly have been making that suggestion. And I absolutely deplore and detest Keir Starmer with a passion. But these same people are the Brexit people who wanted to take back sovereignty of our country. And now they want the inflated orange to come over and take over our country. So none of that makes sense. What I do know is Lucy Connolly is a cause celeb, right? I don't know why, because she is not a sympathetic or even attractive character. And I'm not talking physically, right? It's just an unattractive character to me. But you have leading figures like Nigel Farage in Reform. He actually talked about her when he was in the US last year. And a number of people on Twitter have said to Lucy that if she didn't want to carry on being called a shill, she should consider coming on to Wake Up and joining us one morning. And because I'm not an establishment hack, but so far all she does is give interviews with people who are known establishment hacks, Alison Pearson, Wotton, those kind of people, right? And but she clearly doesn't want to come and talk to me, which is a bit of a pity. But Humphrey smells like bull, division yet again. And Dell already has Easter bunnies in South Australia. That's mad, isn't it? But Dell also thinks she's addicted to attention. I think she is, actually. I think that's what's happened. Exactly that, actually, Dell. And that often happens when people get some kind of social media fame. They realize, oh, I like this. I like that attention. And then they get a bit surprised about what they then receive as a consequence of it. So in answer to your question, I don't know whether she's a shill or not. I simply don't know. But I do know she is absolutely a psychological operation. Clearly she is, because we were told there was 30 people a day who were being arrested over illegal social media posts. Why is she the it girl? Why? Anyone want to tell me? I don't know why. The whole Psy-Op was to make you and me think twice before posting online. I think that is the truth. Sentient. I think that is the truth right there. And which brings me to the next viewer's letter. And this is from Ian. And this is about Lucy Letby, the two Lucies. The two Lucies. And Lucy Letby, of course, is the British nurse who was convicted of the murder of 7 babies and convicted of the attempted murder of a further 7 babies. And Lucy Letby, of course, there's been the Thirlwell inquiry. Well, Ian has written to me saying the Thirlwell inquiry report has been delayed and pushed back again. Yes, yet again. It was due at the end of November, then delayed till about the end of January 2026. Now she has said it will be after Easter 2026. And Ian wants to share his predictions for this case, which I think are interesting because Ian was actually, I think, the first person who wanted me to cover Lucy Letby in the very first place. So Ian's predictions, Ian, as someone who has watched this case thoroughly and observed it, these are Ian's predictions. And I might be wrong and being too optimistic, he says, is that because she has to push it back, it's so the CCRC, which is the Criminal Case Review Commission, can go first and refer Lucy's case this March to the Court of Appeal. They will quash her convictions. It won't go to a retrial, and she will be released this late summer or autumn. And the Thirlwell report will never see the light of day. It will be quietly forgotten about. And there's another £20 million of taxpayers' money down the drain. And Ian goes on to say the whole case, which should never have been brought to court in the first place, has no doubt cost about £100 million. And Ian goes on to say, of course, I might be wrong. It's an interesting topic for debate and speculation as it's all going to play out. We certainly came a long way in 2025. And that is the reality, is at the start of 2025, the outlook for Lucy Letby was not as positive as it was as the year gained momentum. And they set up essentially an alternative panel, including Dr. Shuley, the man whose evidence they had used to convict her. And then he came out, and it's really interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff. And also what I thought was also interesting. So, but Ian actually sees this case as a game changer. And in many respects, I can absolutely see why. There's a lot of people, lawmakers, politicians who have been prepared to put their head above the parapet for this one, which they don't normally. You don't see the same people saying that Jeremy Bamber, for example, is a miscarriage of justice. But a lot of people have gone all out for Lucy Letby. And I can see why. I can absolutely see why. But also what is interesting, and thank you, Paul Carden, for bringing this to my attention, is Dr. Susan Gilby was forced out of her role as chief executive at the Countess of Chester. And now Countess of Chester is where Lucy Letby was said to have committed these crimes. And Dr. Susan Gilby took the Countess of Chester to court after being suspended in December 2022 and has received an astonishing 1.4 million in damages after suing the health service for unfair dismissal. The final cost to us beleaguered taxpayers, including court costs, is likely to be around £3 million after the trust refused offers to avoid the case going to court. And as I say, this is where Lucy Letby worked. And Gilby has talked about how there were board members at the trust who had conspired to remove her from a job. Now, where have we heard that before? Why at the same hospital? There is talk, of course, about the Gang of Four who came after Lucy. They conspired against her. So I think that's interesting. But you see, this is the difference, right? If you're in a senior position, you get compensated with 1.4 million. Whereas if you're more lowly, you're lucky if you don't actually get pursued and sued. And I think that's the difference. It's just so awful. England is such a classist society. There is no doubt about it that I believe that she got that amount because of her position. Obviously, in part, it is because of her position, because if you've been dismissed or if you've lost your job as a consequence of another person, then what you can actually do is sue for lost earnings. So presumably that's what you've done. Caroline says it must be horrific for the families. Why is Lucy so protective? And Stephen says they need a scapegoat. And Sentence says, could this be a way to diminish trust in jury trials? Well, of course, they're getting rid of jury trials now anyway, aren't they? SMG thinks Lucy is a scapegoat. Obviously, people are very divided about Lucy Letby, very divided indeed. And to begin with, I was like, she did it. right? Because I don't know if I did actually right from the get-go. I think I more just kind of paused and sat on the sideline until more and more people were contacting me. But Ian was actually one of the lead ones with information saying there's something wrong with this. I started to look into it, and I think there is at least something there that should be seen by the Court of Appeal. Absolutely, I do. Whether it will or not is a whole other story, because as we have, AI will be judge and jury, says M. That frightens the life out of me, because that feels like there's some truth in that. But we shall see, because the problem is that there are many people who have suffered what appears to be a miscarriage of justice, but the British state is really reluctant to admit that they've suffered a miscarriage of justice, because then obviously they have to then deal with the police who found that, the CPS. There's a whole trail of people that they would have to admit got it wrong, and people don't like doing that. Steve says Gilby was against Lucy Letby when she came to the Countess of Chester, but changed her tune when it happened to her. Interesting. Humphrey says truthers will be picked off when there is no jury. There is a reasonable doubt, Revan. There is, absolutely. Right, let us talk about something completely different. I'm sure must have all heard about this guy, right? Sascha Riley. Interesting stuff. Now, I know it is absolutely clear that Donald Trump does not. There's some information pertaining to these so-called Epstein files that Donald Trump clearly does not want to see light of day. In fact, he is now, I think, 29 days late in delivering the files, or rather his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is. But Pam Bondi doesn't do anything without his say-so. We've seen that. But there's clearly problems. So this Sascha Riley, very interesting story, which I'm going to get into shortly. But just to say, it's all to do with Epstein, of course. The whole Epstein story continues to rumble on. And Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were subpoenaed last week, and they were subpoenaed to talk about their involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, and they didn't turn up. This, of course, is a Bill Clinton portrait that hung in, I think, Epstein's New York home. I think it was his New York home. And so they refused to turn up. It's a defiance of the subpoena. And they were scheduled for a closed door deposition on January 13th and 14th. They both failed to appear. Their attorneys labeled the subpoenas legally invalid and unenforceable. But this is potentially a criminal contempt of Congress. That is the reality. If held in contempt and successfully prosecuted by the Department of Justice, they could face a fine of up to £100,000 and up to 1 year in jail. And it was very interesting because James Comer, who is the House Oversight Committee chairman, he was being asked about why aren't they subpoenaing Trump? And he said, you can't subpoena a president and all that kind of stuff. That's not true. You can do it. Yes, you can. Absolutely. I suspect he just doesn't want to. The reality is they should all be subpoenaed. Absolutely the Clintons, absolutely Trump, but they are all in it together. They like to play, don't they? They like to play fast and loose with the truth when it comes to the politics of this situation. Anyway, it seems absolutely evident to me that neither the Clintons or Trump want the full truth to come out. They simply don't. They are all in it together. Of that, I'm in no doubt whatsoever. But anyway, that brings me back to this. And that is Sascha Riley. Now, Sascha Riley is a name that you may have heard of. His full name, I think, is William Sascha Riley. He's been posting his allegations against President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and what he says is their trafficking ring. And he's been posting that information since 2021. So even though he's just kind of like burst out all of a sudden, he's actually been posting for at least 5 years. And I found some of his earlier tweets. So that was quite interesting. But what has happened now is he's now gained this quite interesting viral attention this month. And he is, what we're told, a US Army veteran who served in the Iraq War. He was reportedly adopted. Let's bring this up. This is an image of him and the journalist that he has talked to, who is Lisa Noel Voldeng. And Sascha Riley was reportedly adopted in 1977 by a man he claims was a pilot involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, his father is mentioned in the Epstein files. His adoptive parents are William Kyle Riley, who was allegedly a pilot and trafficker involved with Epstein and others. His original adoptive mother, who was Irene Ursula Liskey Peter, who was the first marriage of William Riley, and then subsequent mother figure Mary Lynn Riley, who married William Kyle Riley after his divorce from Irene, and is described as having been sadistic and abusive. Now, I don't know if you've listened to those recordings. There's 6 of them, and they are hard work. They are very, very heavy going. And Sascha, as I say, claims that he was adopted by these individuals for the purposes of trafficking. And the audio tapes were first shared via the Substack of Lisa Noel Voldeng, who claims to have interviewed Riley personally. She alleged that Riley was moved out of the US for safety in the summer of 2025. Riley alleges that he was a victim of child trafficking and sexual abuse between the ages of 9 and 13 within the Epstein network. He says that Trump is a monster, far worse than Epstein. And as I say, he identifies his adoptive parents as being involved with the trafficking. Now, first of all, just to say, yes, as I said, William Riley, his father, is actually mentioned in the Epstein files in relation to working with Epstein. So that's interesting. And also Virginia Giuffre, the most famous Epstein victim, who was said to have killed herself last April, she also mentioned a William Riley. She said that a William Riley had contacted her to threaten her into silence. So that is interesting because, as I say, Sascha has been telling the same story, it would appear, for a number of years. Very graphic. It involves, according to him, poor children, impoverished children under the age of 13, and claims that children were shot, were killed, were, the R word, all this insane stuff. And it is really heavy listening. There's, according to the journalist, they are 6 unedited audio recordings. She said she recorded the audio herself. The master files remain in her custody. She says copy of these recordings and supporting documentation have been securely distributed to police and to trusted allies in several countries. And she goes on to say that during the years that Sascha was trafficked within the Trump-Epstein ring, he was forced to perform acts during the filming of several child abuse films, including a snuff movie. Sascha recalls at least 10 to 12 such films. During the snuff film shoot, Sascha saw a child shot and killed during filming. After another film shoot, a child was taken to another room. Sascha recalls hearing gunshots. This is not for the faint-hearted, okay? This is clearly not for the faint-hearted. It's deeply problematic. Ella thinks that it is similar to the same story as the Fiona woman from back in the days and those Hampton kids. Well, I don't know about that, but I do know about the other. Are you talking about the other woman? We're going to get to that, who had accused Trump. Quite similar stuff that she was saying, I believe. So the Trump stuff is astonishing. First of all, let's be very clear. This is all unverified, obviously. You're not going to have the White House saying, why, yeah, sure, Trump did say I want to kill people, right? It's just not going to happen. So, of course, they are going to be unverified. But they're also being largely ignored by mainstream media, of course, again. And you have to be extremely careful because it's difficult to know. But I listened to him and I did think that there appeared to be something genuine about him. However, and I take this point, I've had a lot of emails about this. And one in particular from Joanne. Thank you, Joanne, for pointing this out. There appears to be a political angle to it. Yes, indeed, there does. And I want to read this little bit that Joanne said to me because I do agree. If I can just find it, bear with me. Now, let's be clear. Joanna is someone who has been down the whole rabbit hole, right? As she says, I've been down the rabbit hole of the Franklin scandal, Epstein, Pizzagate, Frazzle Drip, family controlled trafficking, etc. I listened to Emma Catherine's podcast, The Imagination, and read Kathy O'Brien and Bryce Taylor's books, amongst others. I believe wholeheartedly this goes on. And I'm not saying I doubt Sascha's story. However, in my gut, something feels off. And Joanna uses an example, which I think is a fair one. And that is at one point in their recording, they get around to discussing Biden. They describe him as a good man and how the Democrats were trying to do the right thing. And that is when Joanna was like, wait a sec, this feels like a political broadcast now. And it does, because the thing about child abuse is it's not political. It's across all parties. So Biden, I would never describe Biden as a good man. I mean, that in itself is problematic, right? That in itself is. And NCP says, hit the like button or else. Thank you. I appreciate that level of aggression. That's very much appreciated. So I bet they won't discuss. What's that? I don't know what you're talking about. Right. So I take your point, Joanna. I am put off by that because it feels like there's a party political broadcast that is also taking place. I'm only interested in whether these people did it or not, and not what color their rosette is. I also noticed the perps he named were all Republicans, says Drumstick. Well, again, very interesting. So we have to be careful about this because we know that there is controlled opposition. And it is possible also that he's so vulnerable that it is easy to kind of like put him down that alleyway, right? If she's coming from a place where she supports the Democrats, it's very easy, isn't it, to angle somebody down that place. But I don't know that. I can't trust the hair sniffer, says Lisa. I would never trust Joe Biden around children. I mean, that is a degenerate family. So anybody suggesting that Biden or his family are good people is already problematic to me. So I absolutely take your point. But I'm going to carry on reading through this and some of the notes that I made because I did think it was quite interesting. So as I say, the journalist has actually moved Sascha out of the country, which sounds sensible. And some of the accusations against Trump are shocking. Shocking. So he says that at one party that he was at, first of all, just to be clear here, and that is there are a number of child protection experts who have come forward and they said that they find what Sascha is saying to be credible. Sascha clearly states that Trump was the big boss who directed all of it, not Epstein. It was never Epstein. Trump was in charge. Sascha says that he was assaulted at least 3 times by Trump. He says Trump asked people who were running one party that he was at, because Trump, all according to Sascha, okay? I am not saying that this is true, not at all. This is Sascha's testimony. He says that Trump was at this party and he wanted to kill. He wanted to kill somebody, and he was told by the party organizers or whomever was involved that it's not that kind of party, because they do have those kind of parties. And in lieu of doing that, they said, we have some puppies that need taken out, and he took them one by one. And Sascha recalls watching Trump extinguish the lives of these puppies one by one. It's very graphic stuff. Sascha says that is Trump's kink. He said he loves watching people suffer. He likes to destroy people physically and mentally during the assault. That's why he stands out so much in my memory. Physical assault, but also degrading. Now, the problem is like, that's the kind of stuff where a lot of people go, I could see Trump doing that. You can see he gets pleasure out of humiliating people. I mean, he doesn't hide that. If a journalist dares to cross him, live, he'll start calling them idiot, stupid. It usually attacks the women, but it's all presented as allegations. It's on social media. It's on a Substack. As I say, there are no official records about this. I tried to see if there were any reports that Sascha perhaps made. I couldn't find any. But it is very interesting. Sascha is only one of Sascha actually talks also about other people, about other trafficking victims. Again, really horrible stuff. And Sascha talks about how his father hunted victims, trafficked victims, transported clients and victims on airplanes and helicopters, and silenced victims, including ending them. A lot of stuff to say about your father. Now, says the journalist, the evidence is ample. There are pornographic films, there are videos, there are CPS reports. Apparently there are FBI reports on his father. There's a military report involving the court-martial of a fellow soldier found with child abuse images which depict Sascha and one of the victims whose life was ended. Now, that is astonishing stuff. if they have that in their possession, I'm not sure, given that they've got so much attention now because this has gone viral, why they haven't now made a real big thing about showing up at the FBI. We've got the evidence. This is it. I'm having to protect Sascha. What are your thoughts in the comments? What are your thoughts? I really would like to know. Does this, by your gut, feel that there is some sincerity in it? And also, it is interesting, of course, that he's a boy, and the podcast makes a reference as well to him being a boy. Sascha Riley, are there any interviews anyone can recommend? Yes, Prince Buster, there are 6, we are told, unedited audio files that have been published on this lady's Substack. All feels very odd. It could be real, yes. So I don't know. I believe him until proven not, says Robert. And the fact is that Trump is not a... Look, I know there will be people in the comments who always disagree, but this is my take. Trump is not a good person. He's not a good person. Technically, we can't call him a convicted rapist because he's never been found guilty of rape in a criminal trial. However, he has been found legally liable for sex abuse in a civil court. The presiding judge later clarified that the conduct the jury found him liable for meets the common definition of rape. And that was to do with writer E. Jean Carroll. He was ordered to pay $5 million in damages. But again, it's a civil trial. You can't tell. Okay, you cannot tell. The story of Patricia, who Sascha Riley talks about, is just too much, actually. A fellow victim. Sascha identifies her as a girl he was trafficked with, noting they were around the same age. She was described as having been likely adopted into a trafficking family. Sascha claims that Patricia was killed in front of him as a form of torture. It's awful stuff. It's not for the faint-hearted. Yes, he's gone bust a number of times, hasn't he, Marcuson? Herbert said he's not in my orbit, but I don't doubt he's done questionable things. Stephen, Trump is a distant relation of Hillary Clinton. Is that true? Is that true? That's insane. Anyway, so I think we're going to see how this develops, really. It is, as I say, awful listening. Sascha Riley does not sound deranged. He actually sounds very grounded when you listen to him. Now, of course, people can have all manner of issues that they're able to disguise and hide, especially if they're acting. But what would be the purpose of this? Because eventually he's going to be fully recognized for who he is. And I know what it's like when people come forward and say, I was abused, blah, years ago. There is so much distrust towards them. There's not a lot to be gained by doing what Sascha's done. I can't really see the obvious bonuses of coming out and saying all that stuff. I can't, but I could be wrong. I think it keeps the smoke screen going. What's the smoke screen, Captain Flint? Tell me what you think the smoke screen is. You know, I always appreciate your feedback. It's very brutal, Peggy. Very brutal. Trump is a monster, says the Blue Mad. They're all at it. Randy says Epstein was a facilitator, a general in the cheesy game. Indeed. Andrew likes the Donald, should be noted. And that's fine as well, because that's, again, a very divisive character. Some people think that he is the hero of our times and others think he is the demon of our times. Difficult to know, really. For me, I just go by what somebody does. Simple stuff. And the evidence of my eyes is that Trump is not one of us. But you might think different. Keeps us looking elsewhere. I mean, the bottom line is this, is that they have now essentially broken the law by refusing to release the rest of the Epstein file data. And that is close to a month late. Paul, I definitely don't. He's part of the problem. Trust the plan, says DJ Marcuson. Indeed, trust the plan. So there you go. Sascha Riley. Is it real? Is it not? Who knows? But I'm sure I tend to agree with Shug. Don't see any good guys on the world stage. 5D chess, says Darren, but he's laughing, right? We've been told that, right? Hilarious. Yes, Musk is a false idol, Em. I have to agree with you. Look deeper, my playlist just for me. And see, the thing is that I've always said that the problem about the Epstein narrative is it was all gatekeeping. Obviously, we saw that very, very clearly. Teenage girls, and not to take anything away from the abuse of teenage girls, absolutely not. But actually, in the eyes of the world, it is a lesser issue if you've been abusing teenage girls than if you've been abusing children. It's a 5D mess, says Essa. Scary stuff, says Sean. They're all in it together, says O'Reilly. And I tend to agree with that. Yes, indeed, I do. But outrageous, I think, that the Clintons didn't turn up. And thank you so much to your response to Friday's show, my investigation into Bob Geldof, Paula Yates, Michael Hutchence. Great response. Truly appreciate it. So many fantastic comments. Wonderful stuff. I do really appreciate you. And Hanny Brunner-Gran says, was hoping you would take this up. Hi from Commie in Denmark. You're very, very welcome. And I saw a message from the lovely Alison Cameron, who said, good to see more than 1K likes a few hours after posting. Great work, Sonia. Yes, indeed. Please like it. It really does help the algorithm. And I appreciate you all very much. We do have people from all over the world. I think Alison is in Canada. Where are you all from today, you beautiful people? DJ Markson just wants to know a simple question, and that is, where is the Epstein list? You're welcome, Synchronized Soul. Thank you for being with us. We truly appreciate it. And Eric Blair has said, I enjoy your deep dive, Sonia. Please do more of them. You might want to consider Kurt Cobain. I am. I will be covering Kurt Cobain because obviously there's new stuff that's come out. Very interesting. We shall see. We shall see. Thank you, Kath. I appreciate that too. And let me show you this. I always like, let's get a little lighter stuff. First of all, look at this. I was walking down the street. I think it was Friday night in my neighborhood. I live in such an unusual neighborhood. It's former kind of TV center. It's very unusual. And my dog and I were just walking, and then suddenly, and I knew it was there anyway, but suddenly we see this sticking out.
Hello, darling.
A horse's head.
Hello, sweetie.
Literally on the street. And there's my dog. She is not impressed.
Yes.
I love it. Look at that baby. And it's so
Hello,
silently
darling.
there. And actually, so what
Hello,
that
sweetie.
is a horse kind of stables that they wanted to close down. And people in my area all kind of whipped round, got the money to keep it going. Gorgeous blue nomad. Old London. Indeed. West Country, UK, Cumberland, Liverpool. There is no list. Words are important in their rule of law. Deep dive on state assets. Oh, Kira. I love all those suggestions. J.K. Rowling, Peter Tatchell, and Stephen Fry. Well, I've definitely done 2 of them. I've never done a deep dive into J.K. Rowling, and I should. Essex, UK, Abby creates. Florida, just Cara on YouTube. Cleethorpes. Ayrshire, Jacqueline. Wales, says Nikki. New Zealand, says Lee. Denmark, says Drumstick. You don't get justice. Justice is something you dish out. That's right. Cape Town, South Africa, says Women of Zimbabwe. Katie is in Shropshire. Emma's in Notts. Jan is in Netherlands. Banana is in Dublin. Cam's Norfolk, all over the world, all over the UK. I bloody love it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Love horses, but a bit scared of them at the same time, says Sally. I get your point. And Teresa, who I don't know if you're in the comments, Teresa, you sent me a lovely image of a post box. You do know, people, that I just love those post boxes, you know, with the knitting and the crochet on top. Teresa, was this up north somewhere in Yorkshire? We need to see your dancing dog. Synchronized Souls. My dog is a boogie woogie dog. Love that, Teresa. That's a smashing blouse you're wearing. Who's wearing a blouse? I am wearing a blouse, actually. Can you see it from there? Well, we shall find out what the shtick is. I bloody love you too, Em. What if I love you more, though? Right? What if I love you more? So thank you, as ever. Dear, darling Ella, I am so blessed, right? I get some of the best presents ever. Look at this that was sent to me. And I took an image of it. This beautiful aloe vera plant. And it's just starting to grow. That is going to protect me. Dear Ella, I just want to say thank you so very much. I truly appreciate the gifts you people give me. Look at that. That's just wonderful. And she packaged it so well that I was really impressed, because I've bought quite a lot of flowers and I've had them delivered, and some of them are packaged so appallingly. But darling Ella, you sent me this wonderful plant and I really appreciate it. And she sent me a list of instructions of how to keep it, which I need, and how I can also use it to keep me healthy. Love aloe vera. Me too. Thank you, Sally. I appreciate that. Competition winners for the International Macrobiotic Score was Bandana Korno Svet Tursky. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing these right. Please forgive me. And Brioni Tal. And not one of them sound like they're in England, which is cool because we can do that so easily for the International Macrobiotic Score, and certainly when it comes to prizes that are online. Thank you as ever, of course, to my wonderful donators, to Helen O'Carroll, to Catherine Sengupta, to Ashley Potter, to Lunis. Thank you on the super chat, to Swiss Miss Always, to Sticky Marks, to Alan Ford. Some of you wonderful people again this morning. Kath and C Scotland, very much appreciate you as ever. Loads of viewer emails, almost like after the first weeks of January, people then starting to kind of come alive and come awake a little bit as well. And I know, kind of contrary to a degree to what Zoe just said, but in our own times, I think that's Zoe's take-home message. And that is, if you feel like getting up and going, get up and go. But if you also feel like sleeping, don't beat yourself up, because that actually means you're completely in tune with the time. So I love that. So this is from Phil from Tewkesbury. Dear Sonia, I love the comments you make at the end of Wake Up. And I wondered if you would talk about this, that feeling when you're exhausted from trying. What do you do then? Give up? I ask because I've spent the last year trying to complete a manuscript and I'm lacking motivation and wondering whether there is any point, and also wondering whether the delay is down to the fact that I just shouldn't be doing it in the first place. I would really appreciate some motivating Sonia talk. Well, Phil, you're going to get it. Now, I know that feeling. Okay. And what I do when I reach a point of exhaustion and not sure if I can actually continue, whatever it is, I remind myself of how far I have come. You know that saying, right? The only time you should ever look back is to see how far you have come. And that's really important because it's very difficult when we are doing things on our own, right? Especially something like a manuscript. Oh God, that's so hard, right? It is hard. It is. It takes a huge commitment to complete a manuscript, but it's really important for you to acknowledge the steps, your process, even if you've only managed to write one chapter, even if you've only managed to mark it out, right? You've still made more progress than just thinking about it. So it's really important for you to acknowledge where you've come, because that in its own right can be a motivating factor. And I speak from first-hand experience. When I set up, I've talked to you about this before, when I set up Wake Up, I was kind of nervous because I've always worked for other people. Other people have always paid my wages as such. And suddenly I was prepared to do a thing on my own, which meant that I had to make sure that I raised enough money each month so I can show up here twice a week, so that I can put in that time so I'm not having to go elsewhere and do freelance work. And the reality is that from day one, you caught me. That is the reality. Sometimes you have to just take a leap, Phil. Sometimes you have to take a leap. And if it means that you need to, I don't know, shut yourself away for a little period of time to complete that book, then do so. Because the fact is, I don't get the impression that this is something you shouldn't be doing, because I don't think you would have taken the time and energy and the effort to write to me about it because you want motivation to complete it. So the first point, look how far you've come, and be proud in how far you've come as well. And some people who have been through trauma can get exhausted and then they want to give up. Okay. So also remind yourself of whatever obstacles you've had to overcome in this life in order to be able to do that. And one of the things I used to remind myself of, because I come from not even a working class family, right? I come from a lower working class family, right? Free school meals were a very real thing in my family. They weren't just a kind of Sadiq Khan suggestion. We needed free school meals so that I could eat, so that we, that we had enough food to go around so that we could eat. So I understand about poverty. And I was pretty much written off at school because, I don't know, I was oftentimes bored. I got into a lot of trouble, but also I was orphaned at the age of 11. So it's very difficult to carry on doing your schoolwork at your secondary school when you're dealing with being an orphan, right? Nobody really took any of those things into account. They didn't then. They do much more so now. But one of the things that I remind myself of is that where I come from, you weren't supposed to be a journalist. You weren't supposed to be a broadcaster. And I've done all of that. I've worked for every insufferable stuck-up newspaper and TV broadcaster that you can shake a stick at. And the background I came from said I wasn't supposed to achieve those things. So I like to remind myself of that. However, the individual family I came from told me I absolutely was. That I was treated, you know, like the little star of the family right from the beginning. Not in a narcissistic way, but I came along after my brothers and sisters. Mum's husband had died of cancer, their father, and then she met my mum. So I was, the next one to me is my sister, is 7 years older than my other brother, 11 years older, and then my eldest brother 13 years old, and then I have a whole load of family who had found me on Facebook because my father went off and sowed his wild seeds left, right and center. That's a whole other story, but the point is that, Phil, I think it's really important to remind yourself of the obstacles that you've overcome to be able to do what you've done. And one of the obstacles I had to overcome was when I was coming up in newspapers, the vast majority of people who were around me had been to either boarding school, they had been through some kind of private education. Well, I went to the local comp and I left school with barely any CSEs, right? So I like to remind myself of that, because that's about my own self-determination, my determination to succeed despite the obstacles. And many of us have it in us, but it's not a problem if you don't, because we're all here for different reasons. But Phil, it really genuinely sounds like you want to finish that manuscript. So here's the thing that I would suggest: do some practical stuff, right? And that is, as I said, compare to your past self, right? Do not compare yourself to others. It's the worst thing that anybody can ever do. Comparison is the thief of joy, as they said, and they were bloody right, right? Measure your growth against where you started to see your own personal growth, not against anybody else. And celebrate those small wins, please. Recognize and appreciate every step. Focus on your strength. Acknowledge your bravery, your resilience, your willpower, your determination to overcome the odds. That is all you. And if you start to do all that, you might hopefully, Phil, start to see a shift in your perspective. And also, remember what Zoe said earlier, and that is, we are in the middle of winter. You're in Shrewsbury, so you're in England. We're in the middle of winter. So you're in the middle of winter, so take it easy on yourself. Sit by an open fire with a cold beer. That's what I like to do. And practice gratitude, not just for your environment and not just for your loved ones, but for yourself. Be grateful for yourself. And when you do all of that, you will be surprised the shift that will take place. And do a load of kind of automatic writing, right? Reflect and write, jot it all down, just go on a flow. I like to do that, because then it's incredible what comes out of you that you're not even thinking about and you're not blocking. So it's important to do all that. You will build confidence, you will build resilience, and most importantly, Phil, it will stop you feeling overwhelmed. It will stop you feeling that you're falling short, any of those things. And you know, if I could say to, like, pass on anything, and that is, people have to be a lot kinder to themselves. The world is mean. The world can be cruel, can be unkind. A lot of psychopaths out there. Be kind to yourself. Never give up. Never give in, says Program to Terminate. Look deep inside for the soul and footsteps within. Write a letter to yourself and mail it to yourself, says Kenneth. When we don't, what's that? Absolutely that, Reba. When we don't know ourselves, we leave room for others to tell us who we are. Paul said modern flats don't have fireplaces or gardeners. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I know. And Katie is in Shrewsbury too. There you go. Shrewsbury's beautiful, right? Wait, has Shrewsbury got the cathedral? Have I got that right? Lend yourself money, says Herbert. Synchronized Soul is pointing out it's 11:11. Of course she is. And trust that you can do it, says Peggy. I love all this. Phil, you know, the Wake Up Army are here to tell you you've got this. And please honor and validate your own effort, okay? That's really important. Just putting on the screen the names of all my wonderful patrons and people who have made Wake Up what it is. And going to head out on my scooter, energy booster, sun's out. Love that. And drumstick, it's 12:11. Okay, nice to see you. See you on Friday, Merv. Have a beautiful week. Smile and the world smiles with you. Yes, Crafty Kim, it does indeed. God bless you all, says Essa. And I think I don't know where the end of this show would be without one of my favorite expressions. And that is, you didn't come this far to only come this far, Phil. You've got this. I believe in you, Phil. And when you have completed your manuscript, drop me a line again, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. My brother has just finished a really important manuscript, and that took him a long while. Good manuscripts do. And it's an incredible achievement. But Phil, when you've done it, drop me a line and come on the show and talk about your experience and your journey. Cheers to you too, Jacqueline. I love that expression, Blue Nomad. Ta-da, friends. Don't have nightmares. Soul is body and spirit coming together. Sometimes it is not bad to go slow. Absolutely. Have a great week, or as ever. I always think, I got to read this, Lisa. I always think, what would 12-year-old Lisa think of me? And I know I would be proud of how hard I have tried and the incredible things I have experienced. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you. Sunshine on a Monday. Go for it, Phil. You've got this, Phil. Own it. See, look at that. They're all in support of you. Love to you all, you beautiful people. I appreciate you so much. I genuinely do. And I am so honored and privileged to be able to rock up here twice a week and have you join me. Take good care of yourself. See you Friday, darlings.